Hi, hello, how are you? So, when I was 18, I started dating a girl for the first time. That's it, that's the entire video. That's all I have for you guys today. Okay, bye. You need to understand what a big deal it is to be in your first queer relationship. At least it was a huge deal for me.
The Oscar goes to...
Look, your first relationship is a big deal even when you're cisgendered and heterosexual and straight, you know? Even when like an apparent 50% of the people you interact with on a daily basis could be the one. Now try doing that when you're queer. First off, we need to factor in that like only 1 in 10 people are gonna be queer and all of that. Add on to that all the layers of homophobia and coming out of the closet and all those considerations, and you're left with about a rough chance of it's never gonna happen. When you're a lesbian and you like someone and that same person likes you back, the chances of that happening are like trying to put a needle in a thread with your eyes closed. It's just not gonna happen. Now factor in actually dating, like actually having a coincidental crush on one another and then communicating that and then coming to the conclusion that yes, we should date.
Me gay! Me gay too!
That's like trying to put a thread in a needle on an amusement park ride in Wonderla. Like it's just not gonna happen. Like, but it did. So my first girlfriend was actually also one of the first queer people that I ever met in real life. Suffice to say, it was intense.
Oh yes, let's go lesbians, let's go!
Okay, quick thing, not to be self-promo, just being homo, but can you guys like this video and subscribe to the channel? I just think that it'll help a lot more people who might need this video to find it, so thank you. Anyway, back to my first relationship with a girl, which I can safely just call my first relationship because the ones with boys didn't really count. It was just a science experiment that went terribly wrong.
What does this button do? Please, do not push the button.
So, yeah, my first relationship with a girl was a very multi-layered experience. You know, there was a lot going on. For starters, this was the first queer person I had ever met in real life and that I spent an extended amount of time with. So, it was the first time that I got a chance to be fully myself, you know, like authentically gay and myself. Because even though I had come out to my friends before this, I didn't share a lot of my experiences and feelings and stuff with them. You know, I spoke to them sometimes, sure, I told them some things, but it's not something I would sit and dish with them about because I was worried that I was sharing experiences that they wouldn't fully relate to or really even understand or empathize with. And you know, I didn't want to come off as being boring or fixating on it or, I don't know, weirding them out. I just thought that maybe their acceptance didn't run deep enough for that and I didn't want to push it. I think more than that being a queer problem, that's maybe a me problem, I'm not too sure. Yeah, it was the first time I really got to be myself around another person, and that was an experience, a very enriching experience. And for her as well, because it was her first queer relationship too. It was like we were learning how to be gay together, and that was a very, well, gay thing to do, I guess.
Oh my god, lesbians!
Another thing that was really different was the experience of coming out to people. So I had just started college, so there were a lot of classmates and new friends that I kind of had to come out to because they would ask me like, "Oh, Pratna, are you dating a boy?" And I'd be like, "I'm dating, but it's not a boy." And I had to tell them that. And you know, I think when you come out as gay by just saying I'm gay, I'm a lesbian, I'm bisexual or something like that, people kind of look at you with this, you know, this mistrust, like with suspicion, you know, like how an Indian uncle would look at a made in China product. Like, you know, there's just a lot of suspicion. You're just like, if this is fake and it stops working in 2 weeks, I will not be surprised. But you know, when you come out to someone by saying that I have a girlfriend, they're just like, oh, USA, genuine product only. It's met with more credibility for some reason. That was a pretty disappointing thing to find out, but I did notice that people's reactions when I said I have a girlfriend was like, okay, you're the real deal, no doubting it. Every single person in my college knew that I was gay, and I was super happy about it. I would have been insulted if someone thought I was heterosexual at that point. The next layer of this relationship was really the mind-boggling shock of it all. Here was this girl that liked me, that was dating me. I could hold her hand, I could go on dates with her, and she would come on the date.
Me gay! Me gay too!
It was like I was living out every wild fantasy that I had ever had. Everything that I pined after when I watched queer content and movies was happening to me. And I thought this was everything that I wanted. And I was really happy, but it was actually really hard to be in a queer relationship. So being a queer couple in a homophobic society is sort of like being invisible. But if that invisibility is lifted somehow, you are going to get eaten by a tiger. Like, the danger is very real, but it's also like entering the twilight zone. Like, nothing makes sense anymore. Like, I'm in love with this person and all of you think we are sisters. You know, it's hoping actually that people mistake you for friends. It's pretending that you're cousins in particularly risky situations so you can just explain everything away. Even the people that you're desperately trying to tell that you're dating are probably going to think that it's a friendship. For me, it was really hoping that no one would ever find out, that we would never be perceived in that way. And by no one, I mean anyone that we interacted with or anyone that saw us. Shopkeepers, auto drivers, waiters in restaurants. I would just constantly be looking at them and thinking, do you think I'm in a relationship with this girl? Do you think I'm gay? Because I was so worried because I had no idea what these strangers' reactions would be. Would they not care? Would they be ignorant? Would they be disgusted? Would they be excited by it? Would they think that it's something horrible and then act horribly towards us? I think that was the number one thing that I was scared of all the time, because I was no longer a theoretical gay, I was a practicing gay. So the fears were no longer theoretical either. They were pretty practical fears according to me. To be honest, more than actual words or acts of homophobia, the crippling fear of it always being around the corner, like any situation could turn homophobic, any interaction could turn homophobic, that was a lot harder for me to deal with. It was extremely stressful and very anxiety inducing. It made me do things like keep my long hair and maybe dress more femininely on some occasions. It made me always sit on the opposite chair to my girlfriend whenever we were at a restaurant, because I just really didn't want people to perceive us in that way. It made me scared to hold her hand or give her a hug anytime that we were outside. Granted that there were some fantastic things about the invisibility, I think, of being especially a lesbian couple, a believer couple, a unbeliever couple, you know, whatever you want to call it, a sapphic couple. There were some advantages to it at times. Like, we could, you know, go into the washroom together and changing rooms together and just a lot of private places together. And we could have a lot of sleepovers without our parents getting very suspicious. So it had its perks, not gonna lie.
Gay.
But more than any strangers on the street figuring out that I wasn't straight, I was mostly afraid of my parents figuring out that I wasn't straight. Because here was now a very tangible thing that could out me, my relationship, it could out me. So I was really worried. So a lot of people asked me, Pratna, how did you come out to your parents? Granted, I was sitting in the closet with a game plan, escape plan, strategy, script, world map, everything I had, but I don't think it exactly went according to plan. I thought I'd wait till I was financially independent. I thought I'd move abroad. I thought I'd marry a man and then leave him later. You know, I'd picture all sorts of things. I'd picture on going on one of those arranged marriage shadi.com dates that you see in a coffee shop and you completely judge. So yeah, I was planning that, oh, what if that happens and, he's sitting across from me with his wheatish complexion and IIT degree and trekking hobby, and he's just like, yeah, so this is what I want from my ideal partner, from my future wife, these are the qualities. And I'd be like, yeah, same, these are the qualities I also want a wife, thank you, bye, not you, cheek, go away. I felt really guilty, like I was doing something wrong, like I was disappointing my parents somehow, like, was this really something I had to acknowledge? Was it something I had to tell them? I mean, I'd kept secrets from them before in the past. Why couldn't I keep this a secret too? Would it be easier for me? Would it be easier for them? It felt like a bad choice I was making. It felt like I was being selfish. And I think that guilt came from a place of me thinking that I was choosing some future person that I would want to be with, instead of choosing my own parents. It felt like I was choosing my future partner by coming out to them. But then I realized that that's not what I was doing. I wasn't choosing some imaginary person over my parents. I was choosing myself. I was choosing my own happiness, my own comfort, and my own value and worth to be an authentic person over the ignorance that my parents would have about this. So once I came to that realization, it made a lot of the guilt go away, because I was really looking at this from a place of what is best for me. And I didn't think staying in the closet would ever be best for me, because I knew I would never be happy if I wasn't being myself and if I was hiding away that important part of myself. I was choosing to be honest, and I was choosing to give my identity the respect and value and worth that it deserved. And that did make my decision to come out to my parents pretty solid. There was no way I was going to live a life where I didn't do that. Whatever fallout happened, I would deal with it. So I was pretty good at not being honest with my parents. I think being a good liar is probably the best defense that a queer kid has. Because imagine actually being honest with your parents in that scenario. Imagine if I was 14 years old and having all these thoughts for the first time, and I went up to my mom and dad and I was like, I think I like girls. They'd give me one and send me. Like, they would not put up with that. They would think that I was being disillusioned, and they would shut it down so quickly and violently that I would never have maybe even considered it again. I would have been so scared to have these thoughts and come to these conclusions. So I'm pretty glad that I wasn't all that honest with my parents. So the only reason that I actually came out to my parents at the time and in the way that I did was because of my siblings. They were much older than me, and having their support meant everything. So I came out to my brother when I was around 17. I started telling him stuff like, yeah, I have crushes on girls. I've never really been attracted to men, even the ones that I've dated. And he was like, oh, okay. I think he did meet it with some trepidation, or at least some lack of understanding. He did ask me some things like, oh, are you bisexual? And that was a question I had already considered. And my romantic attraction towards women was way too strong for me to think that I could ever be bisexual. So I was pretty confident in my, label that I had put on my forehead saying I'm a lesbian. And he did ask me some stuff like, oh, maybe you have to wait for a right guy and stuff like that. And so I didn't really take his questions too personally. I tried to answer them as calmly as I could, because I knew that he wasn't coming from a place of cruelty. It was just a little bit of ignorance, because he was a very straight man who was a little older than me as well. So he just never really been exposed to these things, so I didn't hold it against him. Eventually, he did come around to it fully and became like my most ardent supporter in the face of any adversity. Like, I could call him up for anything and I knew he would be there to help me out. So with my sister, I got lucky again. It was sort of like some, queer YouTubers coming out video like, hey, I came out to my sister, she still loves me, or like some happy gay movie. Kristen Stewart, take notes. Yeah, we went out to a restaurant and I told her I have a girlfriend. She was like, oh, I'm happy for you. She seemed pretty happy for me, and she didn't ask any dumb questions. And she was like, yeah, I sort of thought that, you might not be straight. And I was like, really? What gave it away? So I had a lot of privilege in that situation, because half of my family already knew and already understood and supported me. So coming out to the other half of my family, aka my parents, didn't seem as that much of a daunting task, because at least I'd have some backup and some support to fall back on. I was not as good at lying to my parents as I trumped myself up to be. They were figuring that something wasn't really normal about my friendship with my girlfriend. And yeah, because I never had such a close friend before, so it was pretty weird that I was spending so much time with this one person and wanted to do everything with them, and I was always going to their house and they were always coming over. So things were starting to get a little bit tense and suspicious, because my mom caught me in a bunch of lies and situations that always involved my girlfriend. So she was starting to catch on that something wasn't as I was saying it to be pretty quickly. And my relationship with my mom was really kind of deteriorating pretty quickly, because I would feel so guilty and ashamed all the time. I couldn't even really look her in the eye. Sometimes I would just look at her and just be like, I'm gay, I'm gay, I'm gay, I'm gay, I'm gay, I'm gay, I'm gay. Because I was just so desperate for her to just somehow know and accept it, and for it to be a burden I didn't have to deal with. But you know, my telepathy skills were not that great. I would have a lot of fights with my parents about political things against their orthodox views, because I was so worried that if their views were so orthodox about so many things and so discriminatory, that they would also be orthodox and discriminatory against the lgbtqia community, and that was a community I was now a part of, and I was petrified that they would, you know, be very hateful and ununderstanding of it. I would listen to conversations where something gay would come up, or someone or something gay would come up like a hawk. You know, I'd just be like, what is your reaction? What is it gonna be? I would just constantly be trying to gauge how they would react someday if I did come out to them. This one time my brother told my mom, hey, what would you do if I married a man? And she was like, oh, no, chi. And I was just like, oh my god, there is one big surprise waiting for you in that third child of yours, ma. Coming out didn't happen from a place of courage so much as it happened from a place of how much worse could this possibly get. So that was my motivation behind coming out. This one time my mom was just routinely being weird about my friendship with my girlfriend, and I finally just told her that yeah, I'm dating this girl. I only like dating girls. I only date girls. I like girls. And she was like, it's a phase. You're too young to know.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're.
See, from my long time in the closet, I had prepared an argument against every ill-informed and homophobic thing that could be said in any scenario. So I was like, you know, well, it's a phase, so you're too young to know. Okay, this is pretty basic. It's not that much of a bad reaction, actually. So I told her that, no, I've known since I was 14, ma. It's just that I'm telling you now. So maybe you should educate yourself some more before having a reaction towards me, because what you're saying right now is coming from a place of ignorance. So I told her that, and I walked out. And to be honest with you, I don't think I actually remember this memory that well, because I have thought about it and talked about it so much that I think at this point, I don't really remember what happened or what I was feeling. But I know that I was kind of relieved after that, even though I couldn't look my mom in the eye for months. Because nothing that horrible happened afterwards. I was not asked to move out. They didn't threaten to take me out of college or something like that. So they were being kind of chill about it, as far as I expected. Most of my mom and dad's reaction happened with my siblings. So if they had anything particularly horrible to say or questions to ask, they would do it with my siblings. You know, they'd be like, oh, why is she this way? What's happened? This, that, and all that. I would just hear about it later from my siblings. So that really took a lot of the sting out. You know, my mom said stuff like, oh, maybe it's all her friendships, they're a bad influence on her. I was so insulted, like, ma, I am the bad influence on my friends, not the other way around, please, bitch. And she says stuff like, oh, maybe we should get her to move to another city, maybe she should go to Bombay or something. And I was just thinking, my god, if you'd send me to Bombay, I would have come back 10 times gayer. I tried my best to give them the patience and the understanding that would make this process a lot easier for me and for them than me just being angry and irritated all the time, even though I was pretty angry and irritated all the time. I tried mostly just to push this idea on them that I was never going to marry a man and they would never ask me to do it. Like, that's the promise that I wanted from them. I didn't really try to push for the fact that I actually wanted to be with a woman and I wanted to, make a commitment to a long-term partner who would be a woman. I felt like that would be a little harder for them to digest, so I just gave them this easy to swallow pill, like, will not marry a man. I could be career oriented, I could be just weird, one of those weird spinsters you've heard of. You don't have to worry about the gay part, I just don't want to marry a man, that's all I asked for. So I did my best at trying to convince them and sort of soften the blow in some ways. In the 4 or 5 years since I've come out, I think I've had a total of 3 or 4 conversations with my parents about this, because my mom's great at sweeping everything under the carpet. After some yelling and crying and horribleness, I did come to a better place on it with them, with my dad at least. He was more concerned with me being financially stable and having a good career, that he kind of made his peace with it. And my mom too, she started surprisingly coming around to it more, and she'd say things like, okay, just don't be in a relationship at this age with anyone because it's a distraction. And I was like, okay, I'll take it. This is what you'd say to my straight siblings too. So I'm good enough with it. I'm good enough with your heterophobia. I just don't want your homophobia. I made it abundantly clear to her that she could ignore this all she wanted. She could pretend it was something else. She didn't really have to acknowledge that I was gay. She never had to talk to me about it. I just didn't want her to be an obstacle in my life and, stop me from living as a gay person. A lot of parents think that somehow by not making you live authentically, by not allowing you to, by being an obstacle in the way of you being gay and being yourself, or just being part of the LGBTQI community, they're somehow making your life better, because they think that, your life and the world is going to suck for you if you're queer. And they're kind of right. But I don't think what they seem to understand is their acceptance matters a lot more than what the world is going to say. Whatever the world does to you is a lot easier if at home at least you're going to be safe and understood. Yeah, I think that's the thing that a lot of people and a lot of parents need to understand. It is the scariest thing to come out to parents, not to anyone else really. It's the number one question that I get asked. It's the number one fear that I've heard from so many people. So things have gotten a lot better. We make jokes about it now that someday I'll marry a woman. And my dad said that he would even attend the wedding if there was one. Sometimes I get marriage proposals from boys who are from my parents' extended friend circle. Yes, it is the world's biggest vomit. But I laugh about it so much that I think even my parents are now understanding what a huge joke it is for me. My mom even recently asked me if in the future I'd live alone or I'd find a partner to live with, and I was so awkwarded out by that question that I actually swept it under the carpet. It's not something that we really talk about still, but I am very okay with that. I have a lot of appreciation and gratefulness that I'm at a place where I'm at right now. I want to continue living in India because I'm very attached to my family and I can only picture my career happening here, and I really want to be an openly gay person living in India because I do think that it can make some difference, and I really want to make that difference. And it's a difference that I have the privilege to make, so I want to try. I know that this wasn't the coming out to parents advice that maybe some of you were looking for. But honestly, there is no one way to come out to your parents or come out to anyone or deal with a situation that's as difficult as this. And the best I can do is just tell you about my personal experiences and hope that somehow helps, certainly helps me to talk about it. There's never any rush or pressure to come out to anyone, your parents, your friends. It's always best to wait to maybe be in a more financially independent situation or have some support because without support you could really risk your physical and mental safety, and that is just not worth it. You are the first priority always in any situation. But if it's just courage that you're looking for, then maybe you can take this as a sign, because even up until a month ago I had not told my parents that I was doing this, that I was being very openly gay on the internet and making content about it. And I was recently sort of pushed into telling her, so I did. And she didn't say anything, and I was really scared about it. But then later on she sent me a message saying, oh, it's okay, do whatever you want and be happy, don't worry about me. It was very melodramatic, like Indian parents tend to be, but I was okay with it. And yeah, it felt like coming out all over again, and I was really scared to do it, but I'm glad that I did, because now I don't have to be very afraid of them finding out about it. So if courage is what you're looking for, there are a lot of people out there taking that leap still, like me. So yeah, don't worry about it. Thank you all so much for tuning into this week's Trauma Spillage. I swear to God, this content is enough for my next 5 sessions with my therapist. Wow. I think my next 10 videos on YouTube are going to be just me being an Indian uncle and reacting to gay TikToks. Anyway, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching this all the way to the end. I really appreciate it. And yes, please chat with me in the comments if you want to share anything, or you can reach me over on Instagram also and chat with me over there. So lots of fun, exciting options. Thank you so much. I love you. Bye.